Hello, my name is Damien Rodriguez. This is my informative presentation for my speech class. I will be informing on the terrible events of 9/11. It all started with Al Qaeda being created in 1988 by Osama bin Laden, which at first it was not a terrorist organization. It was just an organization that opposed its leaders. A year later, they dispersed because the Soviet War had ended, and that's who they mainly fought against. Although they had dispersed, they still opposed their leaders' views and ways of doing things, which, after 7 years of being dispersed, made them band together again. But this time it was under the Taliban militia, which they merged with many other groups and waged a holy war on the U.S. Osama bin Laden believed that the U.S. had no business being in the Arabian Peninsula and were taking all its riches, food, and destroying all the plantation. All of this happening while the Muslims were under constant attack by other neighboring countries, which made it much worse for Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden knew that he could not defeat the U.S. government on a head-to-head war, so he resulted on launching multiple suicide attacks starting from the 90s all the way till 2001, which on 2001 he launched the infamous 9/11 attack. On that day, Al Qaeda sent 19 terrorists to hijack 4 commercial airplanes. They successfully took over all 4 planes using knife cutters to kill the pilot and a bomb attached to a terrorist waist. However, the people of Flight 93 managed to take back the plane using their strength and managed to move the plane's trajectory from hitting the Pentagon and landing it somewhere in Pennsylvania. Sadly, nobody could land the plane and it crash landed in Pennsylvania with no survivors. The other 2 planes headed for the Twin Towers. The first plane hit the North Tower. As soon as it hit, it made a gaping hole in the building, killing hundreds of innocent people and trapping a lot more in the higher levels of the building. Soon after emergency services got there and tried to help the people get out, another plane could be seen in the air coming straight for the second building. The plane went into the 60th floor of the building, sending lots of fire and debris flying down, killing multiple people on the floor and in the surrounding areas. The firefighters did as much as they could, but the heat and destruction was too much for them, and they could not save a lot of people. The last plane they hijacked made its way to the Pentagon. It hit the E ring in the first deck level between corridor 4 and 5. Once it hit, it kept going and hit C ring and B ring. This active terrorism killed 184 people. 64 died on the plane, and 125 died in the Pentagon. A memorial was made for them A memorial was made for the people that passed away in the Pentagon. However, with this destruction, there was a lot of rebuilding and recovering to do for New York, which was not easy. The first responders went the next morning to try and find survivors through the rubble, which they didn't find many, and counted the death toll to 2,743 dead. After the attacks on New York, the economy plunged and everything went on a downward spiral for New York. Families were scared that Al Qaeda would attack again. Many were scared of the economy depleting. However, there was a ray of hope for New York, and their mayor, Mike Bloomberg. He set the foundation for what you see in New York now. Started the rebuilding process, and many were not as depressed. The president did not take lightly to the actions committed by Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Everyone in the country was mad. So President Bush stated, "Our grief has turned to anger, and anger to resolution. Whether we bring our enemies to justice or bring justice to our enemies, justice will be done." The U.S. declared war against terrorism with the primary purpose of bringing down Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. Not much later, they found Osama bin Laden and killed him. A big issue after the attacks was airline security. Many looked towards airline security and how they could let so many people through with so many weapons. The government cracked down on the airline security, making it basically impossible to get anything through. 9/11 was a horrendous day that nobody wants to remember or even think about. However, it's necessary for us, the people and the government, to think and constantly remind ourselves about it so we can move forward and make sure nothing like this ever happens again. That is the end of my presentation about 9/11.